Okay, and I'm back. And if you're watching this for the first time, actually, I have part one for this, and I'll go ahead and put up a link so you can go ahead and click on that if you want to watch the first half of my film analysis here. But anyways, continuing on, last I was talking, he was leaving for the Arctic, and of course, the Arctic is looks a lot like Krypton. And I think the similarities there are supposed to be really important, of course. And it was a really well done shot, and especially that great establishing shot of like the actual Arctic landscape and stuff was brilliant, especially for the technology at the time. And I thought the making of his Fortress of Solitude was really like amazing also, and it was just a great special effect, especially for the 70s, and that the whole isolationism thing was really apparent and abundantly clear too, and I thought that was really cool. Now, when he goes in there though, and the father starts speaking or whatever, his real father, and through the machine, I think it's kind of cool that the way that they represented him, and later on in the movie they kind of show that he's not talking to his father, and it's not a recording because he doesn't have enough time to record if you think about it that way, but at the same time it's like a computer program that's supposed to hold his thoughts, I guess, or something. But it doesn't, like, without saying it, it doesn't do the Star Wars thing and say, ooh, chlorians or whatever. It leaves it obscure in a good kind of way, and I think that was really cool. But of course, this is it's not quite a birth imagery, but it's like a cocoon stasis or whatever. That it's like the emergence from the cocoon, and this is like how every person goes through too, is that they go to college and stuff and they try to figure out who they are, and this is him figuring out who he is. This is his college, and I thought that was a really well done shot, and possibly, like, once again, with almost everything in the movie, it couldn't have been done better, and there was so much. And finally we come to Metropolis, and it's kind of a unique change of pace, and it's really when the movie begins, I think. And it starts off with him just trying to catch up to speed, and Lois Lane is supposed to be Metropolis, like she's supposed to be everything that Metropolis is, and that it's got a good establishment for her too, especially when they do the Jinx line though of a good reporter doesn't get good stories, they make good stories or whatever with the chief, and I thought that's a great way of bringing her in. And then of course, you can't talk about like Clark Kent's persona in this scenes, like when he first comes to Metropolis, without mentioning that Tarantino film that I won't even say the name of. And it's I hate to be a cliche, but it really was a good analysis of Superman. Is that Clark Kent is his persona, not the other way around, and that he's viewing men as like feeble and stumbly and all that stuff, and that's kind of true. And like there's a lot of little things that people won't talk to him. He's slamming into doors, and like he spills the soda everywhere. Um, and that he's kind of like left high and dry, and when he sits down no one's talking to him and all that stuff, and reality is he's sitting at this desk and he doesn't even know what to do. But I think that's kind of a good way of introducing Metropolis, and then of course it goes down that they're going to the street level, and then you get the first exposure to crime, and they don't start off like in your face like the mugging though. If you pay attention to the background, there's some guy gets caught stealing an apple or whatever, and it kind of, it doesn't jerk you from side to side, it kind of eases you into it, and then they do get mugged. And I thought that was, it's just really well written scene, this introduction to crime and how it progresses and stuff. And that Lois Lane's character also gets really deepened by this scene, is that she is like a headstrong and on superficial value, like very strong headed and stuff, and that she ends up kicking the gun. But at the same time, while she kicks the gun from the smugger, she like cowers and stuff and like hugs the wall and screams out or whatever. It shows that like she's only tough like superficially, and that she did something incredibly stupid to try to be tough. And all the meanwhile though, I think it's like there's a lot of cool subtleties that modern cinema could never do, because like I said earlier with the helmet scenes or whatever that they have, like in, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but with the stacking of helmets in his childhood, like in modern cinema they would show the jock knocking it over, where in the this old movie they implied it. And that I think that people are, or movie makers are just assuming that people and the audiences are becoming dumber and dumber, and it's kind of getting obnoxious. But one subtlety though in the mugging scene, which is what I'm coming back to, is that Clark Kent, if you notice, he actually pushes Lois behind him and steps between him, the gun, and Lois, and I think that's like a lot of really cool subtleties in that. Um, yeah, and then of course we finally meet up with Otis, and this is the introduction of Lex Luthor, and I think the Luthor scene that follow before the halfway point that I'm getting to, um, are probably is probably the low point of the first half of the movie, and the whole like music playing with Lois with Otis I wasn't too fond of, and but it was still pretty well directed. You know, that they had the cops tailing him, they gave the cop the hat, and if you pay attention, that hat's really his identity, and that's a great way of showing like a gruesome death without showing a gruesome death. That he gets run over by the train, and they pick up the hat that's all beat up, and it was really well thought out. You know, and that they can keep it at a PG rating and still have someone violently murdered like that. Um, of course, then we finally comes to the part where Superman finally arrives, and this is a great montage. And you know, when the helicopter starts falling and all that stuff, that I think it was a good idea that the first disaster they handled isn't like a criminal one, that it's an actual, not, I don't want to say natural disaster, but it was like a disaster without anybody at fault. And I think that the reason why that's so cool is that like it instantly sets the audience's tone that Superman isn't there to fight criminals. He's there to help people, and I thought that was really cool. But it does have a great montage of him like doing good deeds and helping people, and it was really good, you know. And like I said earlier about acknowledging people, though, that when the helicopter falls and catches Lois Lane or whatever, that he puts down the helicopter and he says, "Oh, you might want to check on your pilot there." And that's exactly what I'm talking about with these movies, that they acknowledge that there's other people and it's not just the damsel, you know. And that's really great to me, and I've always appreciated that about the movies. Um, let's see, but yeah, it goes on and has a great montage of him doing various cool things, and like the jewel thief and the people like having the shootout and the cat, just a wide range and plethora of things going on. Um, and then of course he goes back to talking to his dad, and you know that's that great line that I was talking about, that he it shows that he's not talking to his father, and it shows that he's not talking and recording at the same time. When he's like 24, when he says like the line of like you can't be Superman 28 hours, and then Clark's like 24 hours, and then like the father keeps talking though as if he didn't say anything at all. And I think that's kind of cool. But anyways, it also shows that he's outgrown the recordings, that like not the recordings, but this program of his father, that like that scene shows you that like he no longer can get anything else from talking to this like image of his father, and that's kind of cool. Wow, 3 minutes already, man. I wish YouTube had some more time. Anyways, here comes the midpoint. This is where it's coming. So it starts off with the interview or whatever, and this is the midpoint. This is where everything starts to go to hell really fast, and that you know he arranges to meet up with Lois Lane, and it starts off good. It does. You know, he's sly as hell. He's like the coolest guy ever. Like the whole "I don't drink when I fly" and stuff. It was actually really classy, and they took a good approach. And probably about the slyest line in history. It was like when he says like, what was it? If I did have a girlfriend, Lois, you'd be the first to know. I think that's like one of the slyest lines ever in a movie. But then it happens, and that is that she asked this stupid question that doesn't make any sense. Is it true that you can see through things? How would she know that? The guy just like came out like to the public the day before, and they like in no way implied that he could see through things. And she's asking this question. Well, then it just gets worse. Let's see. This is like the midpoint. This is when everything goes bad. The world's worst poem. Oh God. She rhymes fly with sky, R with star, school with fool, quiver with shiver. Can you like make worse poetry if you wanted to? Was this like fifth grade, fifth grader poetry? If you I want to smack myself in the head with a hammer with that. Just awful, awful scene. And then like they're flying by the Statue of Liberty in Metropolis. Okay, yeah. And then it just keeps going on with a snowball of problems from there. Like how does Lex Luthor know where Krypton is? And like when he starts talking about Krypton and how the meteorites would get here at this time, like how does he know that? Because he calls it Krypton. Oh well, you know what? What a coincidence. Humans call it Krypton too, right? Anyways, on to the plot. How does the criminal Lex Luthor end up buying property in the first place? That's ridiculous. Why explain the plan? Well, I guess that's vanity, like I was saying earlier. But ha ha ha! It's the mailman from Cheers. Ha ha ha! It's Doc from Back to the Future building a fence. You know, to two people that were yet to be famous in the movie that I thought was funny. The moving fault line, moving backwards. God, that was stupid. Just a horrible special effects. Water doesn't work on miniatures. I'm down to less than half a minute here. Reverse footage of the quake. Yeah, that's just stupid. Flying back through time. Like really, this is just awful. And like, why is it Lois doesn't get out of the car? And it's just like stupid, 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 and it's selfish. And like, he goes back and he saves Lois, but then like, well, the kids are still falling. Or wait a minute, the nuke still went off. Why didn't you stop the nukes in the first place, Superman? If you're gonna go back in time. But no, it's just ridiculous, and the whole last part of the movie is just drivel, and it's awful. But it does manage to save it with one last final shot, and I think that's the reason why this movie ends up making any kind of par. And you know, you got to remember about this movie though too. That's really important is that it was also during the birth of the genre films. Between this movie, the movie Alien, and the movie Star Wars. Those three movies invented the 80s, though. They were the segue to the 80s. And I'm out of time, so and thank you for watching.